My hands are shaking so bad I can barely type this. NGL, I never thought I'd be posting on a throwaway account about my life falling apart. I'm Chad, 38, married to Tiffany for 15 years, with two amazing daughters. Everything felt stable, normal, until my youngest, Emily, dropped a bomb on me last night that shattered everything I thought I knew about my wife, my life, and my job. This is where it all went to hell. My childhood was a mess, honestly. IDK growing up with a mom who micromanaged every breath and a dad who was just gone. It really messes with your head. You spend your whole life craving that perfect, stable family, something I never had. So when I met Tiffany at Kingston University, she was like a supernova. I was this quiet, introverted engineering student, and she was just magnetic. Life of the party, beautiful, always surrounded by people. NGL, I was totally swept up. Even back then, there were whispers, you know? Rumors about her entitled BS, how she just did whatever she wanted. I remember a few friends trying to warn me, saying she was trouble, a total red flag. But I was so blinded, so desperate for that connection, that feeling of being chosen that I just pushed it all down. Love makes you stupid, TBH. I thought my love, my stability, could fix her, could change her. Spoiler alert, it didn't. We got married, had two incredible daughters, Grace and Emily, and I climbed the ladder at Jenkins Engineering, building what I thought was this perfect life. Then about 5 years ago, it happened the first time. I found messages between her and some old university flame. Nothing super explicit, but enough. My gut screamed, but she twisted it, gaslighted me hard. Just old friends catching up, Chad? Why are you so insecure? She turned it all back on me, and like an idiot, I bought it. Or maybe I didn't, not really, because that's when I started doing something smart, something truly out of character for the old me. Every bonus I got at Jenkins, I started quietly siphoning a chunk into a separate, secret account. Just in case. Call it instinct, call it fear, but some part of me knew I needed an escape hatch. Last night, though, that's when everything shattered for real. Emily, my youngest, she came into my study, all teary-eyed. My heart just clenched. "Daddy," she choked out. "Mommy, she's with Mr. Jenkins again." My blood went cold. Mr. Jenkins, Brad Jenkins, my coworker, Gary Jenkins' son. My brain just froze. I asked her what she meant, trying to stay calm, but my voice was shaking. She just cried harder, telling me how she saw them, how Grace saw them, how they've been seeing them a lot. My own daughters knew. My own daughters had been living with this secret, watching their mom betray me, probably hearing the whispers at school too. And Brad, my fucking coworker. Suddenly, every knowing glance, every hushed conversation at work, every time Brad looked at me with that smug little smirk, it all clicked. They all knew. My whole goddamn world was laughing at me. I don't remember much after that. Just this cold, hollow feeling, then a burning rage. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even stand still. I walked into the living room where Tiffany was scrolling through her phone, probably texting him, IDK. I just looked at her. "Emily told me everything," I said, my voice flat, dead. She looked up, no surprise, no shame, just a slight raise of an eyebrow. "Oh, she did she?" she said, like we were discussing the weather. "Well, it's not a secret, Chad. Brad and I are exploring our relationship." I stood there utterly gutted. "Exploring your relationship?" I almost screamed, but my voice cracked instead. "You're married to me. We have 2 kids. You're calling it exploring?" She just sighed, annoyed. "Chad, please, don't yell. This is just my body, my choices. You don't own me, and frankly, this arrangement works for everyone. Brad understands me." I was numb, completely numb. It was like I was watching some messed up movie of my own life. This chilling nonchalance, this absolute lack of remorse, this entitlement. It's just my body. How could she say that? How could she be so utterly detached? My mind raced, searching for a comeback, a cutting retort, but nothing came. I was broken, completely shattered. I barely slept. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, every muscle stiff, my head pounding. Brad was already there, leaning against the coffee machine, talking to a couple of other engineers. He saw me, and that smug, knowing grin spread across his face. I swear the air in the office felt thick with whispers. Every laugh, every glance felt directed at me, like I was the office joke. An hour later, Gary Jenkins, Brad's dad and my boss, called me into his office. He sat me down, looking stern. "Chad," he started, "I've been hearing some uncomfortable rumors. I just want to remind you that workplace harmony is paramount, and personal issues, no matter how complicated, shouldn't disrupt the professional environment." It wasn't a warning, it was a threat. My job, everything. He knew. He was protecting his son. I felt totally exposed, ridiculed, like a clown in a circus. The last shred of dignity I had was gone. But that numbness, that broken feeling, it started to solidify into something else. Something cold. Something resolute. I had to make a plan. I had to make them pay. After Gary's chat, I knew I couldn't just sit there and take it. The numbness was gone, replaced by this cold, calculating focus. I wasn't going to scream, wasn't going to beg. I was going to find everything. So I started watching her. Not overtly, not like some psycho, but I paid attention. Suddenly, all her girls' nights made sense. She'd be out late, come home smelling faintly of something that wasn't her usual perfume, and then completely ignore me, acting like I was just furniture. It was like she was dismissing me because she already had her emotional and physical NGL needs met somewhere else. That coldness, that dismissive attitude, it wasn't about me failing her. It was about her being fulfilled by someone else. And that someone else was Brad. First thing on my list, money. I dove deep into our shared bank accounts, credit card statements, every single transaction. I was looking for anything out of place, anything that screamed affair. It was tedious, eye-numbing work, scrolling through grocery bills and utility payments. Then I found it. Tucked deep in her purse, which she'd carelessly left on the kitchen counter, was a receipt. A super expensive jewelry store. My heart pounded, but here's the kicker. There was no new jewelry, nothing on her, nothing hidden in her drawers. So what was that receipt for, and where was the actual item? That night, after she was sound asleep, I did something I never thought I'd do. I quietly grabbed her phone. It felt dirty, invasive, but IDK at that point. All bets were off. I scrolled through her messages, my breath held. Most of it was just her friends, mundane stuff. But then, tucked away, were a few cryptic texts from a number I didn't recognize. No name, just a number. Stuff like, "Can't wait for Thursday," and "Miss you already." Nothing explicit, but enough to make my stomach clench. It wasn't Brad's number. I knew that for sure. So who was this? Another one or a burner? I also started noticing her with her briefcase. She was always so careful with it. Never left it unlocked. Always kept it close. For all this, I never paid attention. Now it was a huge red flag waving in my face. What was in there? Work stuff? Or something else? I kept debating if I should hire a PI. The thought just overwhelmed me. It felt like admitting defeat, like putting my broken life on display for a stranger. But the thought kept nagging. How far could I really go on my own? I did a quick check on her car's mileage one morning before she left for her errands. Then again when she got back. Way more miles than just grocery shopping or meeting friends for lunch. She was going somewhere, consistently, and not telling me. Then bingo, a recurring charge, a fancy boutique hotel, not local, about an hour's drive away. Small, discreet charges, but there, clear as day, on one of our joint credit card statements. My hands actually started shaking again. This wasn't just lunch or a quickie in a car. This was a whole operation. A hotel. With whom? Brad or someone else? The unknown number? I made a sneaky call to that jewelry store a few days later. Played dumb. "Hi, I think my wife Tiffany Miller bought something from you a while ago, and I was trying to surprise her with something similar, but I can't find the receipt. Do you guys keep records?" The saleswoman, bless her heart, was super helpful. She pulled up the transaction. "Oh yes, Mr. Miller. Tiffany bought a custom engraved men's watch, a rather expensive one. A men's watch. No surprise bling for her, just a pricey gift for some dude." My blood ran cold. Brad. It had to be Brad. I started a detailed log, a physical notebook hidden in my study. Every girl's night, every unexplained absence, every time she was secretive with her phone or briefcase. The time she came home late, the unusual mileage on her car, the hotel charges. It was all going in there. I also set up a new encrypted email account for my eyes only. No way was I risking her finding anything. This was my war room. A mix of dread and fierce determination washed over me. This wasn't just an affair anymore. This was a systematic betrayal, a carefully constructed lie. It was getting real and ugly. My biggest fear was Grace and Emily. How much more of this were they aware of? How much more would they have to endure if I dragged this out into a nasty divorce? The thought of them hurting ripped me apart, but I steeled myself. There was no turning back. This investigation was going to be a brutal marathon, and I was going to finish it. The decision to escalate was brutal, but necessary. After the jewelry store call and the hotel charges, I knew I had to go full digital deep dive. One afternoon, while Tiffany was out on one of her girls' trips, which I now knew meant Brad trips, I installed a small, discreet GPS tracker on her car. It felt totally invasive, but NGL, I was past caring about feeling bad. This was about survival. I also got a keylogger on our home computer. She didn't use it much, mostly her laptop or phone, but if she ever did, I'd have it. I even went back through months of old doorbell cam footage, looking for anything out of place. Late arrivals, early departures, anyone unusual coming or going when I wasn't home. It was like piecing together a horrifying puzzle. The GPS data started rolling in, and it was devastating. I cross-referenced her alibis. I'm with Sarah, I'm at the spa, with the tracker info and those recurring hotel charges. The holes in her story were massive, gaping chasms. While she claimed to be having brunch with a friend, her car was parked outside that boutique hotel. Every single time. The cold, hard data didn't lie. Then one evening, she left her phone unattended while she took a shower. My chance. My hands were shaking as I unlocked it. She used a simple pattern I'd seen her type 100 times. I scrolled through apps, and there they were. Dating apps, Hinge, Bumble, not just accounts, but active conversations. My stomach dropped. Brad was one thing, but this, multiple men, a whole other level of betrayal. I quickly snapped photos of the profiles, the conversations, but the real smoking gun? It was almost too cliche. After she was asleep, deep in her closet, tucked inside an old shoebox, I found it. A burner phone. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she'd hear it. It was cheap, nondescript, but clearly active. I unlocked it, and there it all was. Multiple contacts, not just Brad. BJ was there, Brad Jenkins, unmistakable. But also Mark, David. She was juggling them all. I scrolled through the messages, a wave of nausea washing over me. Deleted messages, but thankfully not permanently. I managed to recover them. Explicit details, dates, plans, mentions of gifts. The watch for Brad, sure, but other things for others. The depth of her deception, the sheer calculated effort, it was sickening. Can't wait to see you, my love, from BJ. My love. I wanted to throw up. I cross-referenced the burner phone's activity with the GPS tracker data. Tiffany's car wasn't just going to the hotel. It was stopping at Brad's gym, at a specific coffee shop near his office, at an upscale restaurant that I knew he frequented. It was all so brazen, so open. Everyone around them must have known. The pieces were all fitting together, painting a picture of a woman living a completely different, secret life. Then while I was digging through an old email account for some family photos, I stumbled upon a shared calendar entry. Business trips, she called them, for me to see. But when I cross-referenced the dates with the hotel charges and the burner phone activity, they lined up perfectly. Her business trips were her rendezvous, not just with Brad, but apparently with others too. And there was more. I found her secret social media profile, a private Instagram account full of suggestive photos, posed, alluring, comments from strange men. This wasn't just my wife anymore. This was a stranger, someone I didn't recognize, someone who clearly had no respect for me our marriage, or our family. Click, click, click. Every single piece of evidence. Screenshots of the dating apps, the burner phone messages, the GPS maps, the hotel charges, the shared calendar, the secret social media profiles. I saved everything to a secure, encrypted drive. This wasn't about confronting her anymore. This was about building an airtight case. The emotional toll was crushing. My head pounded constantly. I felt physically sick, my stomach in knots. Seeing the explicit messages, the suggestive photos, it made me want to rage, to break something, but I couldn't. I had to stay composed. The sheer scale of her deception, the casual cruelty of it, burned deep. This wasn't some momentary lapse. This was a long-term, calculated, cold-blooded betrayal. It all sank in. This wasn't a mistake, it was a chosen lifestyle. And I was going to make sure she paid for it. Not just financially, but for the emotional damage she inflicted on me, on Grace and Emily. This was my fight now. The digital deep dive was comprehensive, but I needed eyes on the ground. I needed indisputable proof, the kind that held up in court. So I hired Ron, a private investigator. He wasn't cheap, but at this point, money was just a tool in my arsenal. I gave him everything: the GPS data, the hotel charges, Brad's address. I need proof of her at his place, I told him, my voice flat. Ron's first report came in a few days later. No drama, just facts. Confirmed Tiffany's regular visits to an apartment complex. The address matched Brad's. My stomach lurched, but it wasn't surprise anymore. Just a confirmation of the gut-wrenching truth. Then came the photo report. Brutal. Crystal clear images of Tiffany walking into Brad Jenkins' building, then leaving, sometimes hours later, sometimes the next morning, looking disheveled but trying to fix her hair. He even caught them once, walking out together, laughing. Brad had his arm around her. It was all there, undeniable. Each photo was a punch to the gut, then pure luck. Tiffany forgot her infamous briefcase in her car one evening, the one she guarded so carefully. I didn't even hesitate. I opened it. Inside, it wasn't just work papers. There were intimate gifts, a small, expensive men's cologne, a new silk tie, probably for Brad, a change of clothes, neatly folded. And then, at the bottom, a handwritten note, a love letter. From Brad. My dearest T, can't wait for our next business trip. Every moment with you is heaven. Love, BJ. My vision blurred with rage. BJ. The same initial on the burner phone, the same initials on the men's watch receipt. It was all him, every single time. The sickening intimacy of it, knowing she was taking this stuff back and forth, like some secret agent. I went back to the bank statements, spurred by the gifts. Those huge cash withdrawals I'd seen. Now I had context. I meticulously traced them. A significant chunk went into those gifts, others for fancy dinners, hotel room service, spa days. Not for her, not for us, but for them. My money, our family's money, funding her affair. The rage, the hard resolve hardened further. I also started documenting conversations with Grace and Emily, not overtly, just writing down things they'd say. Mommy smells funny when she comes home sometimes, Emily once said innocently. Mommy is always on her phone, even when we're talking, Grace observed. Little things, but they spoke volumes. Innocent observations that painted a picture of a distracted, disengaged mother, wrapped up in her secret life. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about their sense of security, their childhood. It was time to get legal. I set up a meeting with a divorce attorney named Sarah. She was sharp, no nonsense. I laid out everything, showing her the screenshots, the PI reports, the financial statements, the love letter. She just nodded, occasionally jotting notes. Chad, she said, this is extensive, very well documented. You've done a lot of the heavy lifting for me. She walked me through my options, stressing the importance of protecting my assets and documenting everything for the emotional damage aspect. She also advised against any further direct confrontation without her guidance. Let me handle the legal strategy, she said. The first thing I did after that meeting was transfer every single dollar of my bonus savings, that secret account I'd started years ago, into a brand new account, completely separate, untouchable by her. My escape fund was now my war chest. I started practicing the confrontation in my head, over and over. I knew Tiffany, I knew the gaslighting would come, the denial, the victim act. You're crazy, Chad. You're imagining things. You're insecure. I rehearsed my calm, unwavering response, the bullet points of evidence. I wouldn't engage in an emotional fight. This would be a presentation of facts. I prepared a concise, bullet point summary of all the evidence: GPS coordinates, dates, teams, photos, text, financial transactions, the love letter, organized, indexed, ready to be dropped like a bomb. The hardest part was making arrangements for Grace and Emily. I told them they were going for a special weekend at my sister's place. They were excited, oblivious to the storm brewing. That was the absolute hardest part, knowing they were about to be caught in the fallout. The initial emotional storm had cleared. All that was left was a cold, hard, unshakable resolve. This wasn't about anger anymore. This was about justice. The air in the house was thick, suffocating. Grace and Emily were safely at my sister's, oblivious, which was both a blessing and a fresh stab of pain. I had meticulously arranged the most damning evidence on the kitchen table. A stack of printed photos from Ron the PI, enlarged screenshots of the burner phone texts, the hotel receipts, the car mileage log, the printed email of the shared calendar. Everything. It was a silent, irrefutable accusation. I stood by the window, watching the driveway, my heart a dull thud against my ribs, waiting for her. Her car pulled up. I heard her keys jingle, a soft, oblivious hum as she walked in. She probably had no idea. She probably thought she was just coming home after another day of living her double life, ready to dismiss me and retreat into her world of secrets. She walked into the kitchen, humming, and then she stopped dead. Her eyes landed on the table. The hum died in her throat. She looked at the photos first, then the burner phone screenshots. Her face, usually so composed, went pale. What is this, Chad?" she stammered, trying for her usual dismissive tone, but it faltered. I took a deep breath, a calm I barely recognized in myself. "This, Tiffany," I said, my voice steady, "is the truth. It's what you've been doing. Photos of you at Brad Jenkins' apartment, texts from his burner phone, hotel receipts from your business trips." I gestured to each pile of evidence. All of it. Predictably, she tried to deny, to gaslight. "This is insane, Chad. Are you stalking me? This is ridiculous. Those are just friends, business meetings." "You're obsessed." Her voice rose, hitting that familiar high-pitched anger. But I was ready. "Is Brad Jenkins your friend who writes you love letters, Tiffany?" I asked, pushing the love letter across the table. Her eyes widened, scanning Brad's distinctive handwriting. Then I pushed the heavy hitters forward, the printouts of the GPS tracking data, showing her car at Brad's apartment complex every Tuesday and Thursday, the detailed logs of the burner phone calls and texts lining up perfectly with her girls' nights. Her face shifted, from denial to shock, then quickly, inevitably, to angry defiance. "You're a monster, Chad, a spy. How dare you invade my privacy like this? This is illegal. I'll call the police." "Call them," I said, not flinching. "Tell them you want to report your husband was for investigating your multiple chafes, including the one with his coworker, Brad Jenkins. Tell them you want to report me for finding the burner phone you hide in your closet and the love letter from your married lover." I laid out the PI's contact information. "I have a private investigator, Tiffany. Ron has documented everything." Her jaw dropped. The police threat died on her lips. "I'll take the girls," she screamed, her voice cracking. "You won't get them. I'll make sure of it." That's when I dropped the bomb that shattered her completely. "Emily already knows, Tiffany," I said, my voice unwavering. "She told me. She saw you. They both did. Our daughters. They know." The air left her. Her defiance crumbled. She stared at me, eyes wide, utterly broken. The anger drained from her face, leaving a hollow, desperate plea. "Chad, please, I can't explain. It's not what you think. We can fix this. Please, don't do this." It's exactly what I think, I said, ignoring her desperate pleas. And it's too late. I've already filed for divorce. My attorney, Sarah, is handling everything. I know about the financial irregularities too, Tiffany. The cash withdrawals for gifts, the money spent on hotels. My terms for separation are simple. You will agree to our equitable division of assets, and you will agree to a shared custody arrangement that prioritizes the girl's well-being. And you'll agree to it because I have enough evidence as to bury you financially and reputationally. Her shoulders slumped. She looked utterly defeated. Now, I continued, I need you to pack a bag, just the essentials. You're moving out tonight immediately. The house fell into a heavy, chilling silence. She didn't argue, didn't scream, just stared at me, her eyes dead. I felt hollow, utterly drained. But beneath it all, an unshakable resolve. This was finally happening. Stick around to the end to see how life's costly choices unfold. The day after the showdown, Sarah, my attorney, officially filed for divorce. Grounds, infidelity, and financial malfeasance. The legal process was underway, and there was no turning back. It felt surreal, like an out-of-body experience, but also strangely liberating. Sarah wasted no time. She sent Tiffany's newly retained lawyer a detailed dossier. Every single piece of evidence I had gathered, the PI reports with photos, the screenshots of the burner phone, the GPS data, the hotel receipts, Brad's love letter, the financial statements detailing her cash withdrawals and expenditures on him. It was an undeniable mountain of proof. The message was clear. This wasn't going to be a messy, drawn-out battle where I had to prove anything. The proof was already there. Tiffany got served a few days later. I wasn't there, but I imagined the look on her face. The official papers, from the court, it was real. Final. The first thing I did was change all the locks on the house. Secured every personal document, every valuable item. This was my home, and I wasn't going to let her have any further access or cause any more chaos. It felt like taking back control. Bit by bit, working with Sarah, we moved swiftly to freeze joint accounts and protect our shared assets. We need to ensure she can't drain anything or hide money, Sarah advised. I provided her with all the financial statements I'd painstakingly compiled, proving Tiffany's misuse of funds. The evidence showed how she'd been siphoning off money, not just for herself, but for Brad. It was a clear pattern of financial abuse. Tiffany's lawyer, as expected, tried to spin it. They sent back a boilerplate response claiming I was unstable, a jealous husband making wild accusations, that I'd harassed Tiffany. But with Sarah's calm and reasoned approach, backed by the undeniable evidence, their bluster felt weak. They didn't have a leg to stand on. The hardest part, again, was talking to the girls. Grace had been with my sister too, and when they both came home, I sat them down. I didn't sugarcoat it, but I didn't get into explicit details either. Mommy and Daddy are getting divorced, I started, because Mommy made some choices that broke our family. Choices that were unfair to me and to you. She was seeing other people, and she spent our family's money on them. And I can't be married to someone who does that. Grace, always the more quiet one, just looked at me, a wisdom beyond her years in her eyes. I know, Dad, she said softly. Emily, still a bit younger, looked relieved. So she won't be here anymore? She asked, almost hopeful. My heart broke, but also swelled with relief. They knew, and they were supporting me. It felt like a weight lifted, their understanding reinforcing my decision. I also made a discreet call to HR at Jenkins Engineering. I didn't accuse Brad directly, but I expressed concern about unprofessional conduct involving a senior employee and a subordinate's spouse, hinting heavily at the potential for ethical breaches and workplace disruption. I wanted to make sure his actions had consequences without jeopardizing my own standing. My professional reputation was something I had painstakingly built, and I wasn't going to let Tiffany or Brad destroy that too. As the legal proceedings began, I also secured temporary full custody of Emily. Grace, being older, was able to articulate her desire to stay with me, and the court respected that. It was a huge relief knowing I could provide them with stability amidst the chaos. I braced myself for the long, draining emotional and financial fight ahead. This wasn't going to be easy, but with every step, the years of manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional abuse, it all clicked into place, providing a grim clarity. This wasn't a sudden breakdown. It was a slow poison that had been eating away at my life. I poured all my energy into my daughters, their needs, their stability, their future, and into my own future. I was determined to build something better, something honest, out of the ashes of this betrayal. Once the divorce papers were served and the details started circulating, the office grapevine at Jenkins Engineering went absolutely wild. I didn't have to say a word. The news spread like wildfire. Not just that I was getting a divorce, but why? The affair with Brad Jenkins. My phone rang and it was Stacy, Gary Jenkins' secretary, calling me into Gary's office. This time, there was no veiled warning. Gary was absolutely fuming, his face red. He wasn't mad at me. He was livid about Brad. "Chad," he started, his voice barely controlled. "I am appalled, utterly, completely appalled by my nephew's behavior. This is unacceptable, a complete breach of professional ethics and personal integrity. He's tarnished the Jenkins name." Turns out my discreet call to HR, coupled with the now public knowledge of the divorce and Brad's involvement, had forced Gary's hand. Brad Jenkins was canned, or officially he resigned under pressure, but everyone knew what happened. He was out, gone. The immediate consequence of his actions. NGL, a deep, satisfying sense of vindication washed over me. He deserved it, every bit of it. Stacy, who'd been a quiet observer for years, became an unexpected ally. She'd known. "Mr. Miller," she confided quietly one day, "I always suspected something was off with Tiffany. And Brad, he's always been trouble." She even confirmed details I hadn't known, little whispers she'd overheard, suspicious schedules. It was like the whole office had been holding its breath, and now everyone could finally exhale and talk about the elephant in the room. I started getting unexpected support from colleagues. Guys who'd previously given me those knowing, uncomfortable glances now came up to me, shaking my hand, offering quiet words of solidarity. "Always thought Tiffany was a bit much," one guy mumbled. "Sorry you had to go through that, man," another said. It was a bizarre yet comforting experience. They had suspected it all along, and now they felt free to show their support. Meanwhile, the very public nature of the divorce was causing a huge rift in Tiffany's social circle. Her indulgent friends, the ones who always seemed to enable her entitled BS, suddenly started ghosting her. They didn't want the drama, didn't want to be associated with a public scandal. It was like watching a house of cards collapse. With Brad out of the picture at Jenkins, the immediate sense of humiliation I felt at work lifted. It was a massive weight off my shoulders. I could breathe again. I could walk through the office without feeling like a joke. I also explored the legal concept of alienation of affection with Sarah. While it's a tricky area, especially in our state, the sheer volume of evidence, especially the love letter and the financial misuse, gave us a strong argument for additional damages against Brad. Sarah was confident we could at least pursue it, adding another layer of pressure. Gary Jenkins, in a move I never expected, called me into his office again a few weeks later. He actually apologized. Formally. "Chad," he said, looking me in the eye, "I want to personally apologize for what my nephew did. It was a blight on this company and a personal betrayal to you. You have handled this with incredible strength and integrity." It was a rare moment of genuine sincerity, and it meant a lot. That apology, combined with Brad's firing, solidified my position. I started asserting myself more at work, taking on bigger projects, speaking up in meetings. And in my personal life, I felt a new sense of agency. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was building. I earned newfound respect from my colleagues and even from Gary Jenkins. He saw me as a victim of a bad situation, yes, but also as someone who had navigated it with dignity and strength. It was clear now, the moral consequences for Tiffany and Brad were well underway. Their actions, once hidden in the shadows, were now exposed, and the world was reacting. With the public fallout settling, my primary focus shifted entirely to Grace and Emily. Their emotional well-being was paramount. I poured every ounce of my energy into them, rebuilding our family dynamic, making our bond stronger, unbreakable. We started having honest, open conversations about Tiffany's betrayal. It was tough, Heartbreaking sometimes, but necessary. They needed to process their anger, their disappointment, their confusion. "I just don't understand why Mom would do that," Grace said one evening, tears in her eyes. "Didn't she care about us?" Emily, quieter, expressed her hurt in frustrated drawings of a sad family, with one figure, Tiffany, disconnected. It was clear their profound hurt and frustration towards their mother ran deep. They felt abandoned, dismissed. I listened, held them, and validated their feelings. I wanted them to know that their feelings were real and that it wasn't their fault. I guided them through the emotional minefield of divorce with as much grace as I could muster. We talked about how people make bad choices, how love sometimes breaks, but that our love, as a family, was still strong. I made sure their financial stability was secure, their routines consistent, their emotional needs met. No more secrets, no more lies, just honesty and comfort. I also found a new therapist, not just for myself, but for the girls too. We all needed to heal from the trauma. It wasn't just Tiffany's betrayal, but the years of gaslighting, the emotional neglect, the constant undercurrent of instability that had taken its toll. Therapy became a safe space for all of us to unpack that emotional baggage. Slowly, I started rebuilding my own life too. I reconnected with old friends I drifted away from during my marriage. I dusted off old hobbies, hiking, reading. It felt good to reclaim parts of myself that Tiffany had dismissed or discouraged. I even started attending a support group for men who had been through similar infidelity. Hearing their stories, sharing mine, it made me feel less alone, less like an anomaly. It was a lifeline. I focused on self-improvement, hitting the gym, eating healthier, trying to find some inner peace amidst the chaos. It wasn't about looking good for someone else. It was about feeling good for myself. And gradually I started experiencing genuine moments of happiness, of tranquility. Small things, a laugh with my daughters, a quiet morning coffee, a good workout. These were moments of peace, a stark, beautiful contrast to the constant underlying tension of my marriage. I reflected on my past weaknesses, my desperation for stability, my willingness to ignore red flags, my fear of being alone. I vowed never to repeat those patterns again. This experience, brutal as it was a catalyst for fundamental change. Meanwhile, Sarah kept me updated on the divorce proceedings. Tiffany's lawyer, facing the overwhelming mountain of evidence I had provided, was now pushing for a settlement. They knew they didn't have a winning case if it went to trial. They knew the public exposure would be devastating for Tiffany. But I held my ground, no compromises. I wasn't going to let her off easy. I wanted a fair and just outcome, one that reflected her betrayal and protected my daughter's future. Sarah was a bulldog, negotiating hard on my behalf. The legal battle was winding down, but it wasn't over yet. I was looking forward now, ready for the final chapter of the divorce, for the ink to dry, for the opportunity to truly begin a new, honest, and peaceful life with my daughters. The hard part was almost over. The rebuilding had already begun. The day came. The divorce was finalized. Thanks to the mountain of rock-solid evidence I'd gathered and Sarah's relentless work, the settlement was incredibly favorable to me. I secured the vast majority of our assets, protected the girls' future, and ensured Tiffany received a bare minimum, reflecting her financial misconduct and years of deliberate deception. She contested every point, of course, but the judge wasn't swayed by her attempts at gaslighting or victimhood. Justice, in the legal sense, was finally served. Tiffany, I heard through the grapevine, and a few stray texts from her former friends, who eventually drifted my way, NGL, faced significant financial hardship. She had to sell off most of her designer things, downsize drastically, and was essentially ostracized from her old social circle. Her entitled lifestyle, built on my efforts and her lies, crumbled. She was isolated, struggling, and utterly alone. The moral consequences she brought upon herself were stark and undeniable. Brad Jenkins, too, felt the pinch. His reputation at Jenkins Engineering was irrevocably tarnished. Word travels fast in our industry. He struggled to find any comparable work, bouncing between low-level jobs. His arrogant smirk was probably a thing of the past. It was vindicating, watching their carefully constructed worlds implode. I sold the big, empty house. It was full of too many ghosts, too many bad memories. I bought a cozier, more manageable home, a fresh start for me, Grace, and Emily. It was smaller, but it felt warmer, safer, filled with genuine love and laughter. And my girls? They thrived. Emily blossomed, shedding the quiet anxiety she'd carried. Grace excelled in school, a strong, independent young woman. Our bond became unbreakable, forged in the fires of adversity. They knew they had a dad who would always fight for them, always be honest with them. I found true peace in my independence. The constant underlying tension was gone. The hard-earned respect I now commanded, both professionally and personally, felt genuine. I even made amends with some estranged family members, healing old wounds that had festered for years. This whole ordeal, as horrific as it was, had forced me to reevaluate everything, including my past. Dating, I've cautiously considered it, armed with new boundaries, a deeper understanding of red flags, and a profound sense of self-respect. The idea isn't as terrifying as it once was, but it's not a priority. My focus is on me, on the girls, and on living a life of integrity. I've also dedicated some of my time to meaningful causes, volunteering at a local charity. It gives me a renewed sense of purpose beyond engineering and fatherhood. And I've started writing down my story, thinking maybe, just maybe, I'll share it, perhaps anonymously online. If my experience can help just one other person navigate the brutal landscape of betrayal, it'll be worth it. I realized my greatest strength didn't come from avoiding the truth or pretending everything was fine. It came from facing the brutal reality head-on, investigating it, documenting it, and fighting for justice. That's what made me whole again. The story concludes with me, Chad, Grace, and Emily building a resilient, honest, and loving future. Tiffany, last I heard, is grappling with her diminished circumstances, utterly alone, haunted by the choices she made. For me, Alex, and for Sophie and Ava, the path was one of painful truth and relentless healing. We learned that trust, once shattered, takes immense effort to rebuild, and that real strength comes from facing the brutal truth, not from burying it. The financial strain, the emotional trauma, the public humiliation, these were all the direct costs of her infidelity. But from that devastation, we forged a bond of unwavering honesty and resilience. Our future, though forever reshaped by her betrayal, is now built on integrity, love, and the quiet dignity of a life reclaimed. It's a harsh testament that even the deepest wounds can heal, leaving behind not just scars, but an unshakable inner strength.